What's up, guys? We got Big Paul back on here. I know it's been a couple years since Paul's been on here. We've been trying to get this done. This is our third reschedule, so fourth time should be the charm. But I'm kind of happy we waited because we have some new news to talk about, at least on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on in the ultimate PED educator, world's most knowledgeable person when it comes to PED education, the only science-based educator. There's a lot of drama going on there. My friend Victoria Black or Victor Black or Shane Wallace, whatever his alias is at the current moment, has resurfaced after. Or James Raymond, yeah, that's another one. After running his cryptocurrency scheme, he seems to has come back to the bodybuilding world to haunt us again, to remind us how he all taught us everything and we know nothing, and everybody owes him a debt of gratitude, because without him, there would be no bodybuilding coaches at all.
I see he was going after Steve a lot too, and I was digging through there looking for the Todd post that he made.
Yeah, I blocked him a long time ago, so I try to block all of his aliases, so I just don't pay a whole lot of attention to him. But he's just a big bully and a liar, and I hate when people pick on my friends. It really pisses me off. What he did with Ty was pretty shitty.
It's like that cockroach that every time you try to kill it, it just comes right back. And I noticed that he's got different pages for different languages now. He's got like a Spanish page and all this other shit where he posts the same shit in different languages. Probably uses like Chat GPT and
he's evidently become an AI genius overnight, and he had some sort of course or scam he was selling people on how to. I don't know what the fuck his latest scheme is, but I saw him post something about how his Victor Black AI was going to put everybody in the coaching business out. That's his last hurrah.
That was hilarious. I saw that was his most recent post when I looked this morning. It was about coaching AI being the future, but I thought he was against using AI and fake coaches and shit. But now he has an AI coaching program, so it's like.
Well, when he figured out he could grift and make money on it, then he's all in.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So yeah, fuck that guy. That's all I have to say.
So I guess back to bodybuilding topics, real bodybuilding topics, not Victor.
Oh, I could go on about Victor all day long if you want.
I mean, it's good clippable content, let's be honest. But then again, as soon as he sees this, he's going to be in our DMs nonstop.
I just block him. I just ignore him. What do they say? Don't feed the trolls. That's internet rule number 101. Yep. Once in a while, you got to kick a guy in the dick, and he needed to be kicked in the dick.
So we were talking before we got on camera here. You got a big surgery coming up?
Yeah, I'm getting my shoulder worked on Monday. Basically, the diagnosis after the MRI was all fucked up. I have a bicep tendon that's partially torn, and a labrum that's partially torn, and a supraspinatus that's partially torn, and a bone spur, and a cyst. Just everything. Everything's partially torn.
Yeah, fun stuff. How long is that going to put you back on doing your next show?
I like go back and forth on whether I want to do another show or not. I'm down to 239 right now. It's 250 on stage, and it's funny. Like, I don't need naps during the middle of the day like I was before. I'm only on 200 tests. No GH, nothing right now, just some Retatrutide, and I feel really good. Like, my body feels healthy. I just had my blood work done on Monday, and my doctor was like, she was surprised that everything was perfect. I'm like I told her, like, 200 milligrams of TRT is nothing. I've run 2,000 before. She's like, 2 with 3 zeros after it? And I'm like, yeah, 2 with 3 zeros after it. She's like, people run that much testosterone? Yeah, people run that much testosterone.
Send her Chase's channel.
It's funny because I've been looking for a new GP, and I wanted somebody who'd be open-minded about PEDs and help me with some of my. I'm a diabetic, type 1B or 1.5, whatever you want to call it, diabetic, where I have pancreatic insufficiency. Sometimes my pancreas just doesn't make blood sugar, and it's random. It just happens randomly. Like right before here, I got an alert on my glucose monitor that it shot up to 250. It'll be fine. It'll be like 90 to 100, and then it just shoots up out of nowhere, and I have to take a shot of insulin. So if I pass out while we're doing this, it's because I took Humalog. I don't think it was enough to make me pass out, but we'll see. But yeah, so I finally found a new doctor that seemed to be open minded about it, but she doesn't have any experience with PEDs, and she was asking me what steroids did I use when I did my first intake with her, and I said all of them, and she goes, "You're joking, right?" And I'm like, "No, I'm dead serious. I've tried pretty much everything at some point." She's like, "All of them at the same time?" I'm like, "No, no, no. We cycle things. We try different things up. Not all of them. Usually like 3 things at one time."
Yep.
Or 4, just depends. Or contest prep, it might be 5 or 6, just depends.
How was your experience on the Retta so far?
I really like the Retta. I had to stop it before surgery. The surgeon didn't want me taking it 2 weeks before the surgery. I didn't exactly understand the reasons why, but it was just like they didn't want to risk anything with me going hypoglycemic while I'm under.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then also he said something about the gastric emptying, the effect of gastric emptying, and the anesthesia and painkillers afterwards. That he didn't want any additional gut issues, so he wanted me off of it. But yeah, man, it's crazy that being a type 1B diabetic and having pancreatic insufficiency. One of the things that comes along with pancreatic insufficiency is digestive enzyme issues. Because most of your digestive enzymes are made through the pancreas, and so that causes a lot of my gut issues. And when I started the Retta, I have the opposite effect of what other people have, where they have gut issues. It actually cleaned up my gut problems because I have IBS-D, likely because of my pancreatic insufficiency. And it seemed to have gotten my pancreas functioning again to a certain degree, and my stomach issues went away, and basically the occasional diarrhea that I would get with IBS-D went away. And also, like, my fasting blood glucose levels with no other change in my diabetic treatment went from around 100 down to like 80. Dramatic drop. My lipids right now are the lowest they've been in a long time. It's just crazy seeing all the improvement in blood work, and just from 1 milligram. I did I started off with 1 milligram. I went up to 2 for a brief period of time, but it did give me some gas and bloating, and then I went back down to 1. It seemed like, for my purposes, 1 was fine. I'm not chasing appetite suppression, but I've dropped, since I've been on it, 10, 12 pounds. I'm not even dieting or trying.
How long have you been on it for?
Since January.
Okay.
So yeah, about 4 months.
Yeah, so I did a whole YouTube series on my experience with it, and even eating at maintenance, I was dropping like 3 pounds a week on it, but I was also pushing the doses up on it. Like, I typically sit like 4-ish milligrams a week now, but I've worked up to 8. 8, I started getting a little bit backed up on my digestion, I could tell, especially like the intra-workout shakes. I feel like it just like sits there in my stomach, and I have a little hernia, and all the fluid just sits in it, and it's really uncomfortable that first day after the injection.
Yeah, I think on the clinical trial, if I recall correctly, they went up to as high as 12 milligrams.
Yep.
Yeah,
so that's why I was going to push up and see, because I didn't know. I was just kind of experimenting. But I didn't notice a ton of appetite suppression. Once I hit 4, I noticed the food noise goes down. 8, I did notice more suppression, but I didn't go up any higher.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like, I would say, here's what I noticed with 1 milligram. Like, I already have a low appetite to begin with, but I do get food cravings. It probably has to do with my diabetes, but I do crave sugar frequently. And I noticed that it did seem to quiet down those food cravings. I wasn't having or I also noticed too, like, any high fat meals just kind of made me feel disgusted thinking about eating high fat meals. Yep. It was just a small, subtle change. And I know 1 milligrams, a baby dose. But it seemed to have a pretty profound impact on my blood sugar and on my digestion, and just, I definitely lost weight on it. I didn't need a whole lot.
Yeah, what was funny, I did my blood work, and my triglycerides were almost off the scale though. Like, they were in the 40s or something like that on, out of the sliding scale.
That's crazy.
And then I was actually on 8. The other problem I had, that's why I stopped doing it, is I was getting either blood sugar or blood pressure drops. But also, I was on Tren, and I'm one of those weirdos with Tren that it drops my blood pressure. So I'd get up out of bed in the morning and start getting like dizzy and have to like grab on.
I get like that too on contest prep, man. I have to drop all the blood pressure meds and stuff.
I wasn't taking any of them. It was just the Retta and the Tren together, just making it way low.
Yeah, it may be the Clen too for me on contest prep. Clen can actually cause an acute drop in blood pressure as well. A lot of people don't know that, so it's just something to keep an eye out. It has weird effects. But yeah, I definitely noticed an improvement in my blood sugar, and it's a wild drug. Pretty much anybody that I know that have used it seems to have almost as strong of an impact, if not more, on lipids than statins do.
Yeah. I would say my LDL was low too. I forgot. I think it was like 70 something on it. That was with Tren. I mean, triglycerides and all that were down instead of up like they usually are.
Yeah. I noticed it seems to cancel out some of the effects of the PEDs as far as skewing lipids. It's pretty amazing. It's it's wild that shit's still in trials, and there's more stuff coming down. Like I know, like the next gen GLP-1s they're looking at, they're going to be quad agonists where they are looking at actually putting IGF-1 on it as well, which would be fucking crazy.
Yeah. Well, I did notice there was one of Colton's guys. He's in our school, and one other person I know had this weird like acute skin rash. I guess people can get
yeah. There's if you look at the clinical trial data, there were some people that would get skin rash from it. I had a guy that I work with that he got the skin issues with it.
Yeah, out of a couple hundred people I've talked to on it, it's only been 2 or 3. Like that's the third one I've heard of that have that issue. So I guess it's not very common. But then again, you don't know until you do it. So I guess you shouldn't go out and buy 10 vials of it and then be like, oh,
yeah, shit. It can cause some tachycardia too.
I did have that.
Yeah, when I first started it, my pulse went up about 10 beats per minute. Mm-hmm. And then it came back down from what I don't understand the exact mechanisms, but I think it has to do with the glucagon agonist.
Probably. It was the first week and a half, I think I had that. I went to like 90 beats per minute. I was like, I don't like this. And then it settled and it was fine.
I mean, it could be the Tren too.
Well, I wasn't on Tren at the very beginning, okay. So wasn't that.
Yeah, Tren is famous for making you pee brown and make your pulse elevated.
I don't have either of those issues on it myself.
Really?
That's weird.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. My CRPs are always low on it too. Like Colton's always like, he's like, I'm not using you as an example. I'm not going to talk about it because you go against everything I told people in my whole career about Tren and not to take it. But like NPP makes me feel like shit though. It's the other way around for me.
Yeah, I do think actually, honestly, if it wasn't for the insomnia, I feel like I tolerate Tren pretty well. It's just I can't fucking sleep when I'm on it.
Yeah, and for me, it's like when I'm cutting real hard, my calories are low, I'll get that. But if my calories are up a little bit, it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, I have that issue, and then I get a bit of anxiety. Sorry, when I'm on Tren. Although I think Nandrolone is worse for me for anxiety than Tren is.
How much GH you running lately?
None right now. I've been off of it. Yeah, I've been off of it for about 3 months.
Why is that?
I had it's my own fucking fault, man. After my show last year, I just kind of went off the rails with my diet. I just wasn't like I was eating shitty. I'm the opposite. Like guys on contest prep, they go eat a shit ton of food after. I just don't want to eat. I get tired of eating 6 meals a day. So I kind of came down to like eating 3 or 4, and like I was having a few too many McFlurries in there as well. And then
when we went to the Brazilian steakhouse, you weren't stopping until people tapped out. So it didn't surprise me at all.
I also convinced myself that I didn't need to take Lantus since I was only eating 2 or 3 times a day, which in the past I've been able to get away with. At the end of contest prep, I don't really need it. And I just wasn't paying attention to my glucose levels, and I went in to get my blood work done, and end of January, beginning of February, and my A1C was a 10.3, which is fucking horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like fall off your feet, go blind, end up with Alzheimer's. Horrible. It's never been that high. Like the highest it's ever been is like mid sixes, 6.7 or something like that. I'm like, oh fuck, this is a problem. So I had to take some corrective action. I'm like, got a doctor because I just been kind of managing it on my own lately, and seeing an endocrinologist and all the things you're supposed to do. I went to the cardiologist recently. I had to do all that to get clearance for my surgery. Cardiology was clear. I got a funny story about that too. But yeah, I just had my blood work done on Monday. It hasn't been a full 90 days yet. My A1C was back down to 6.7.
That's actually a big jump then.
Yeah, for 60 days.
Yeah, usually it takes 30 days to even notice a budge.
Amazing what taking insulin when you're diabetic will do. Yeah, I'm like so fucking stupid. Like it's like one of those things. It's like do as I say, not as I do. I don't know why I convinced myself I thought it would be okay. So I just, long story short, I came off the GH just to, because that does have an impact on glucose metabolism. You're shifted towards I think people misunderstand why GH makes you, I guess long term it could make you diabetic, but it's the rise in blood sugar when you're on GH is a temporary effect from making a shift to lipolysis from glucose metabolism. And so like you're actually burning fat more and you need less glucose. So that's why bodybuilders will end up taking insulin insulin and GH are counter-regulatory. So bodybuilders will take insulin to deal with it. Ideally, and that's why another reason why I think it's probably done to do the multiple dose GH throughout the day. I've noticed with me being a diabetic, like if you split up the doses and do them throughout the day, there is definitely, especially if you're eating carbs, there is definitely a rise in glucose levels. I found that if you keep it all at night when you're in a fasted state, when you are in a caloric surplus, that you have better outcomes with blood sugar control. But anyway, long story short, I figured it was probably wise for me just to come off of it for the time being, just to get myself normalized again, and then I could go back on. My plan is to go back on it post-surgery. Just a small dose, maybe like 4 units or something.
Okay, an actual small dose, not a Chase Iron small dose.
No, believe me, I tried the Chase 18 units of Serostim thing. I couldn't fucking feel my hands, and I was like falling asleep at my desk all day long. I couldn't. I think the tiredness was the worst part.
Yeah.
I just couldn't stay awake. I kind of settled in. I think my last contest prep, I settled in at a half a bottle of Serostim every day, so 9 units a day. And I do split it up on contest prep for the lipolysis, but you're in a low carb state on contest prep, so it makes more sense then. Yeah. I think when the carbs are high, then you want to probably not split the doses up. And the rise in IGF-1 that you get from it anyway lasts for something, I don't remember the exact number, but something like 48 hours anyway. So there's really not much of an additional benefit for splitting it up other than fat burning.
Yeah. So now that you mention it, you have to tell us the funny story then at the doctor.
Oh, yeah. So I've had this happen off and on for like the last 20 years. I first found this in my 30s. I went into the doctor and they said I had an abnormal Q wave on the EKG. And the doctor's like, man, did you have a heart attack at some point in your life? I'm like, no, I never had a fucking heart attack. So periodically when I've had EKGs done over the years, sometimes it shows up, sometimes it doesn't. I've been to the cardiologist before, and the cardiologist was like, and like they would retest me and do an echo, and like everything's fine on the echo. They're like, maybe it's just something you were born with. It's just like a periodic arrhythmia or something that's going on. And so I saw this new cardiologist. This guy used to be a sports physician. Worked for the. He told me he worked for the Eagles. I think he was the Eagles. I don't remember, but he was a sports physician in the NFL, and then he made the switch to cardiology. And he's like, "You don't have an arrhythmia, man. Your pec muscle's so thick that the EKG can't get a good reading." He's like, "We have to use a different tool to to get a good reading on you. That's, you don't have an arrhythmia. So like all these years, they've told me I have had a heart arrhythmia when I'm like, I don't think I do. It was a misdiagnosis, complete fucking misdiagnosis.
Tony, your muscles are too big.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm fucking Ronnie Coleman or something, but you know, I'm a larger human being.
Yeah, well, that'll throw it off too. It's kind of like when they do your blood pressure readings and they use that little ass like kid's cuff, and you're like, all right, well, you're gonna get a high reading because you're not using the right cuff for arms.
Yeah, like he was telling me, like the way they place the leads on the pack, like they have to move it in a different spot because it can't penetrate all the way through the pec muscle. And I guess the electrical signal from the pec muscle throws off as being some sort of ischemia in the heart, if I'm saying that correctly. But yeah, it's that was hilarious. Like I've been misdiagnosed. I've had some horrible experiences with doctors over the years. I was told, this is why I fucking hate doctors, man. And I'm really the only doctor I trust is Dr. Paul. I've been an advocate for my own health over the years. I do see doctors, but I go in with I don't put my full trust in them. I go with them with a healthy bit of skepticism and make sure I ask plenty of questions. Not that I know as much. There's not cognitive dissonance going on here, but not that I know as much as a doctor. I'm not claiming that, but I think sometimes you have to challenge them that they're under pressure and they are trying to just move people in and out quickly. From what I understand, insurance only reimburses them for 15 minutes a time. So how thorough are you going to be in fucking 15 minutes? So you need to go in knowing everything you need to know and challenge them on stuff and ask questions. Because I think a lot of times they just jump. At the end of the day, medicine is educated guesswork. It's highly educated guesswork. So they're just going to go with the most likely diagnosis first and then work their way back to the more obscure. But I remember I would have high C reactive protein all the time, like periodically. And I was just diagnosed as having lupus, and I was treated for lupus for like 4 or 5 years, man. And then I saw this new doctor, and he's like, man, have you ever been tested for Lyme's disease? And I'm like, no, I haven't. And then it turned out that I had chronic Lyme's disease, man. It wasn't even lupus. And they had been mistreating me for years. I've been on these meds. I've been, this is when I wasn't lifting, man. I felt horrible. My joints hurt. I couldn't lift. I thought, man, I'm fucked. I'm done lifting. I put myself in health prison, and that's when I kind of got soft and mushy and wasn't in the gym. There's other reasons why I wasn't in the gym, but that was definitely a contributing factor. So they fucking misdiagnosed me, man. So like it's the same thing with this heart arrhythmia shit. You go through life. The people like get pacemakers and stuff in. So that's why it's always good to get a second opinion, ask questions, challenge. Just don't take, in general in life, just don't take people at their word on things. Ask questions and have some critical thought.
Yeah, because there's always things that can be missed at the end of the day. So, well,
they're especially ignorant when it comes to PEDs and what we do.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they just don't understand. Like I remember sitting in my doctor's office before and explaining to them about how an elevation in mild elevation in ALT is likely just from exercise. It's not, my fucking liver's not dying from taking testosterone. And I watched the guy sit there and Google it. I'm like, there's a study. You can go on PubMed. And there's multiple studies that show that there's an acute rise in aminotransferase enzymes post-workout that's up to 48 hours. Just go look it up.
And then you have the opposite too with blood pressure. They wait until you're at a critical level before they do anything. Because like I remember when I was on a bulk, I was sitting at like 130, 140, which isn't that bad, but I wanted it down like normally. And I just kind of flew the question about telling them to start and buy them, and they're like, I don't need that. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go fucking order on my own then and just start taking it.
Shit, usually they like handing out statins and blood pressure medicines like candy.
When I was 22, the doctor tried to get me on a statin because that's when I was eating a ton of eggs every day, like literally like I think 8 to 10 eggs. And my HDL, this is when I was natural, my HDL was like 70 and my LDLs were like 150. And she wanted to put me on a statin for it. And I'm like, no, I'll just stop eating as many eggs if it's a fucking problem.
Yeah, they've gotten a lot better now with stuff. But I mean, you have to pressure. And I don't expect them to know much about PEDs. It's a pretty obscure thing. I might be this doctor I'm seeing now. I mean, she's my age. She's 50. And clearly she's never seen a case like me before, ever. I'm the first. And I'm sitting there. She seems to be very open-minded, so I'm like explaining things to her. Look, I'm just here to be healthy. I'm not asking you to.
She's likely seen cases like you. They just don't tell her.
Yeah, well, yeah, dudes don't. Yeah, I'm probably an idiot for telling. My last doctor fired me. No, I'm not shitting you, man. I usually pay to go to a concierge doctor because I don't want to have to deal with like being rushed out of the office. And
I have a client actually. He's like, I think he's 60. And I mean, he was pushing his doses up. He was telling me he was doing. I told him not to, but he did anyway. But he went to the doctor, and they saw his test was over 1,500. And the doctor told him that if he's not at 0 on his test reading when he sees him in a month, that he's going to drop him. I'm like, well, that's not healthy either. I wouldn't drop your test to 0. You're going to feel like shit. Might as well just find a new doctor at that point.
Yeah, that I've heard doctors do that stupid shit before. They over dramatize the dangers of testosterone, and I'm like she told me she wanted me to get off of it and be treated by an endocrinologist for hypogonadism, and I'm like, lady, I'm 51 years old. I've been on steroids for 30 fucking years off and on. Do you think I'm really going to get my fertility back at this point? Nor do I care about it.
Yep.
I've had a goddamn vasectomy. I'm not trying to have other kids, and I don't really care about how big my balls are. And I don't think they're going to make testosterone at this point.
No.
Not in adequate, levels.
And as Rich Piana said, if your balls are smaller, it makes your dick look bigger anyway. So I don't.
Absolutely optical illusion. You got to work with what's in your favor.
Yeah, I have no problem with it either.
Yeah, so I mean, but and I'm not trying to get on the doctors are terrible kick. I have a lot of friends that are doctors. It's a very challenging profession. They spend a lot of time in school. My daughter's getting ready to go off to medical school. It's, you spend 12, 13 years and you're dealing with fat, sick people all the time. I'm sure, it's kind of like.
And that's the problem too, is all the studies are done on them. So when they try to apply a study to you, it's going to be like worst case scenario. The majority of Americans are fat, out of shape, and not in good health. So now they're trying to apply it to somebody who might be overweight, but you're muscular overweight, not fat overweight, out of shape.
Well, it's like, she was flipping out because my hematocrit was a 51. And I'm like, the 51 for being on is pretty good. And I'm like, if you're fat and overweight and you have polycythemia just from no other reason, then yeah, maybe it's a problem. But I'm working out, I'm lifting weights, I'm taking, testosterone. I think my risk is a lot lower than the guy that's smoking, drinking, eating like shit that has high hemoglobin and hematocrit. So there are other risk factors to consider. So long story short, I think you just need to advocate for your own health when you go to the doctor. Most of the consult calls I do, honestly, are dudes that are fed up or frustrated with doctors. They come to me. They want me to look at their blood work, give them an opinion on their blood work. And usually what I'll do is give them a list of stuff that they should talk to their doctor about. I don't try to treat them, but, and then you can go in with some bit of information you can ask them questions with.
Yeah, and that's always smart to write down too, because you get in there and you get the whole white coat syndrome, and you forget, and then by the time you walk out, you're like, crap, I should have asked this question. So I always tell people to write stuff down too, because I ask myself. Yeah,
I'll go through and make notes on my blood work, and then have a list of questions ready to go when I go in. Yeah, I debate whether or not it's wise to tell them you're on PEDs or not. At this point, I'm just kind of like, I'm fucking old. I want to make sure they know the full picture. I'm trying to live a little bit longer. I want to see my kids go to college and grow up. So I don't know. I go back and forth on whether I don't want to do a show or not. I say that I go back and forth on it, but I love competing, and I'm sure I'll get bit by the bug when the shoulder's feeling better and want to do one more show. Every show I've ever done is my last show.
Yeah, well, you told me in November, you're like, fuck it, dude, I got the pro card. I got to at least use it once and get smoked and get 16th place to put me back in my place.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I'm, the way I look at the pro card thing, it's like getting drafted in the NFL. You're not a real NFL player until you get on the field.
Yeah.
And even if you're the 53rd man, what are there 53 guys on an NFL roster? I think
It's 53 now. Yeah, it was 50. I think they upped it to 53 because of the
Yeah,
third QB.
if you're the 53rd guy on the roster, you're still an NFL player.
Yep.
I don't care.
Practice squad. Practice squad, you technically are too.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. You're still an NFL player. So I don't know. That's the way I kind of look at the pro card. People got all salty when they had that requirement. I think they want people competing. There's a lot of people that get pro cards and just never compete.
And is that so? I never got clarification on that. Was that just to maintain it? Like you earned it, you can say, yeah, I earned it. It's here, but it's just to hold on to it so they don't have these inactive pro cards, and they're trying to like reduce the number of active pros. Was that what it was?
I'm probably going to piss some people off saying this. I think it boils down to they just want to collect your membership fee every year.
That too. Kind of like the whole NASM thing when they're making like the coaches have to get the NASM training when NASM doesn't address PEDs. Like it's all basic ass shit. Like if you look at their courses, but it's just a marketing deal to make it look like we now have a coaching certification when you're not really addressing the problems.
Their angle was they want people to compete. They don't want people just to get the pro card and not compete. And it's wild when you go to some of these, like I hear bros talking about there's too many pros, but you go to like last year at the fucking Detroit Pro, there were only 7 guys or 6 guys in the open, man. There were like 10 this year. You go to most of these shows, there's only like 10, 12 dudes. You go to any amateur show, there's way more than that. It's not like there's an overabundance of guys competing on the pro level, except in the men's physique division.
Yeah.
Then there's 800 dudes. There's 800 dudes, but really they're not a lot, and especially like in the masters divisions. Look, I get it. Like you got to think about your health, but most people, there are very few people that compete in the masters divisions and the pros. Very few. I mean, I think there's only.
Well, a lot of those guys don't even want to move up to the Masters. Was it Brandon Curry, I think, was talking about maybe moving up, but he still wants to push hard in his current division.
So yeah, I mean, fuck, you got 4th place at the Arnold. Yeah. Why, but according to what he was saying, I think he is going to do the Masters Olympia.
Yeah.
Why not? Fuck it. But guys, I'm just saying the guys that get Masters pro cards, most of them never end up competing. They just don't do anything.
Yeah,
and there are masters divisions at the shows. There's a handful of shows. There's like 4 or 5 shows that have a 40 and a 50 class and masters.
Yeah, and as you said, at that point they start thinking longevity too. It's kind of on that borderline of do I want to continue to do this and potentially have things happen.
Then there's other guys I talk to are like, fuck it, like how much longer am I going to live anyway? I've already made it to 50 or 60. I had a guy coached. I don't know. Well, I guess I'm rolling him under the bus, but he's 70 years old or almost 70. He was his last year in the 60 division, and he was running a pretty spicy cycle with some Tren. And I'm like, man, are you sure you want to do this at 69 years old? And he's like, Paul, how much fucking longer am I going to live anyway? He goes, I just want to get my pro card before I die. That's it. I'm like, okay.
That's his goal.
You do you, man. I don't think it's smart. I wouldn't do it, but I'm not advising that you do that. But if you want to go for it, that's your personal choice. I do believe in personal choice, and everybody's got their own path. So it's not my job to, I advise him on what I think is correct, but it's ultimately his choice to do what he's going to do. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, when you think about it, there's guys still drinking and smoking at that age.
Yep.
I took a trip to Key West earlier this year, and there were a lot of drunk 70-year-olds and smoking cigarettes stumbling around on the street during the middle of the day. I'm like I'd never seen so many drunk retired people in my life, man. Day drinkers.
Yeah, well, they had nothing else to do, so I can understand.
Rolling off the cruise boat. Stuffed from the buffet, bloated and red faced, and let's go smoke a cigar and have a margarita at Margaritaville, or 8 of them.
Our thing's steroids, their thing's alcohol. I guess everybody has their vice. So
yeah, I don't know. I'd rather take my chances with steroids.
Yeah,
at least you look good.
Yeah. And you feel good too. You don't feel like shit the next morning. Typically.
Yeah.
So how's coaching going so far with you? Like, I know you're kind of tapering down on your own stuff. Are you still loading guys up, or?
Oh God, I'm fucking busy, man. I don't know. I think I'm about at my limit. I am working 10, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week right now. I'm probably going to have to raise my prices here soon just to limit the amount of people I'm taking on. It's been, I want to, at some point, I want to focus more on education. Actually be a real educator, not a fake one that's selling cryptocurrency and Ponzi schemes and whatever else, pretending to be a lady on the internet to set on the Instagram to set people up,
Yeah.
like true educators do.
Yeah. But I mean, how many businesses have you owned now? I know you've been in and out like as a CEO.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5, yeah. So you know how to build a business, obviously.
Yeah, all 5 of them. Well, no, 4 out of the 5 were multi-million-dollar revenue. And then I ran the company I ran was run by some investors, a couple entrepreneurs, and they just sold their company, but that was a multi-million-dollar company as well.
Okay, yeah, because I've been doing more business stuff on my channel lately too, so that does interest me.
Yeah, I thought about starting up another channel with business and success, maybe like some biohacking and hormone therapy, like just like for executives and stuff. But it seems like everybody wants to do that shit. I don't know, man.
Well, the problem is a lot of the guys that do that shit don't have the same experience you do to be able to talk to those people too. That's another thing.
Yeah, and let me tell you, being a CEO and an entrepreneur is a skill set. It is definitely one that it takes years to, and I'm not saying I'm the best at it, but I think I've repeated the process multiple times where I've built many multi-million-dollar businesses, and I've had some successes. I had some miserable failures, man. I went fucking completely bankrupted 30 years old. Lost my ass.
Funny. I feel like every CEO or like business person I talk to has had that happen. Like you have one that fails, but you build it back twice as fast.
Well, it is gambling at the end of the day. You are gambling a bit. It's like, and you don't win big at the blackjack table if you don't put any chips on the table. It is at the end of the day, it is a numbers game. Yep. And the more you try and the more attempts that you get, the better the odds are of you winning in business. So I think where a lot of people make mistakes is they fail once and then they just completely give up. Mm-hmm. And then they go back to, you look at the people that have had the most success in business. Exactly. There are the guys that just got lucky and had a genius product and just rode a rocket ship to success. But most people that have had success have had a lot of failures along the way. They've lost their ass. They just get back up. They go at it again. I think it's really just learning the process of taking the beatings, working hard, pushing yourself, being structured, being disciplined. It really has a lot of parallels to bodybuilding. It's just doing the same boring shit over and over and over again a lot, and continuing to chip away at things, trying to refine things. I think a lot of times people just have bad business ideas and poor execution, both. Mm-hmm. They don't understand. They don't pick an idea that actually is going to have any sort of profit in it. I can look at a business right away and tell it's going to fail. There was this town center that I live in. There's a shopping center in it, and I saw this lady open up an ice cream shop, and I'm like, it's only warm here like 4 months out of the fucking year. Unless you have some very exceptional ice cream, nobody's coming to buy wasn't even anything that you would like. There wasn't like a homemade ice cream or some specialty brand. She was just selling some other people's ice cream. Mm-hmm. Hershey's or whatever it was. And I'm like, you're not going to make any fucking money in the winter. And I know what the rent is in here.
Yeah.
And then her hours sucked, because of the poor work ethic. I'm closing at 5 because I want to be with my family. I always hear people talk about balance in their life. There is no fucking balance when you're an entrepreneur.
I found it way worse. And so I just quit therapy 3 weeks ago, and I feel like I work about 16 hours a day now. Like I block off time on my schedule to go to the gym, and I end up going at like 6 o'clock again anyway. And yeah, that's the number one thing I've found that's been the bigger struggle for me is trying to prioritize things and starting to hire and delegate. That's a whole new world for me right now.
That's so here are the phases that you go through with business building. You initially start off and you can get by just doing hard work alone. And then you hit the wall. Like you learn that really the real value is your time and how you leverage your time. People end up painting themselves into this corner. A lot of times what they do when they start a business, they price their product or their service low so they can be competitive and get business through being more competitive. But then they end up painting themselves into a fucking corner where there's not enough profit left to actually hire anybody. Mm-hmm. And they hit a limit of how much you're limited by how much time you can work. You're just at that point, you're just a highly paid employee. You're not actually building your business. You're not a CEO. You're not. There is a great book I encourage every entrepreneur to read. It's called The E-Myth. If you haven't read it, you should definitely read it. But anyway, it's a parable. The moral of the story is work on your business, not in your business. Be a CEO, not an employee.
What'd you say it was called? Sorry, I was putting my
The E-Myth.
E-Myth. Sorry.
Probably, I think it's probably the most important book that the Rockefeller Habits. There's some other ones that are good. I mean, there's a bunch that are good. And basically what it is you hit this point where you just can't scale any further because you've tapped out your ability you've used up all of your limited resource, which is time. And that's when you have to learn how to delegate.
Yeah, and that's where I got to. I was like, shit, I remember sitting there one Sunday. I was like, that's my filming day. And I had a laundry list of shit to do. I'm like, I can't catch up on all this. And I hit that point. I actually hired a business coach, and he started putting me on the path. But it's funny. Once I got in that group, all of a sudden, all these people that I needed were getting thrown around because I was in a group of other entrepreneurs. Yep. So it's like, oh, yeah, we got all these people that are looking for jobs, and you could just hire that much faster. I did it all in 1 week, like hired 3 people. Whereas before, I was like, I don't even know where to go to look in the first place.
Yeah, and so you really the stuff that you delegate, you have to prioritize. The way I look at it is the stuff that takes the most amount of time and makes me the least amount of money is the shit I want to get off. Probably the lowest skill, cheapest thing to delegate. Or sometimes it is high skill stuff. Like I really don't want to deal with doing book work or accounting. So, very first thing is I hire a bookkeeper and an accountant, and you can outsource it for pretty cheap. I mean, you can get a bookkeeper for $500,000 a month. There's some things like I just can't replicate as well. Like making my content, like that's something I really have to do. And that's a very valuable thing for me to do. I need my time. But you learn these things like, there's just the repeatable processes. And there's a thing like we always talked about when I was running businesses, there's when you have a bottleneck, it's always either a people problem or a process problem. And so you have to define the processes first. That's something that you have to figure out. And then you can throw people at those problems. Mm-hmm. If you don't have the process defined, how to do something, how to execute it, your formula, it doesn't matter how many people you throw at. And that's another area where, like, once people start delegating, then a lot of times they don't know what the fuck to delegate. And then when they do delegate it, they don't know how to define it or hold anybody accountable for the shit they've delegated. So you really have to you have to be smart about defining it and then having a repeatable process that you can really plug any person in to do. Mm-hmm. And now with AI, there's a lot of shit that you can just simply do with AI.
Yeah, that's what I've been looking at too. There's a lot of the CRMs have AI and stuff built into them now to automate some of those processes, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, look, with the AI, there's also a fine line with that too. Like anything that has human interaction,
interacting with actual potential customers, personalization still matters. But
people don't want to talk to a bot. But, like automating some of your work processes and workflows and things like that. what happens when you actually get a client on board, how you onboard a client. There's all these other things. And every business tends to have similar problems. It's just solving these bottlenecks. And there's the various stages. Like I said, it's the early stage where you're doing all the labor. Then you realize that you need to delegate. And then it's like, all right, let's start delegating. And then you'll delegate a few things. And then you run into the other bottleneck. Well, I don't have clearly defined processes. And I don't know what to hold these people accountable for that I'm delegating to. It's how to delegate and how to hold the accountability to this process, and then scaling up from there.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's harder to, because a lot of people will say that's like, oh, this space is so saturated, I can't start it now. But I'm kind of in the camp of it's almost easier now because you have free advertising with content, which you didn't have back in the day unless you were just picking up the phone yourself. Do you feel like it's easier now to start a business than it used to be, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's easier to start one. It's harder to be successful. There's, back in the day, like when I first started business, I mean, there was like, you had to get an office space, you had to get a business license. You still have to get a business license, but you had to go through like all of these hoops and spend a bunch of money just to open your doors to even like a service business. And now you can just work from your house and do everything online. You don't need to go get it. Like let's say if you wanted to open up a car detailing business, like 30 years ago, the only way you would do it is to actually have a storefront.
Yeah.
Or a car wash or something. You don't need to do that now. You can do everything online. Or like if you wanted to be a coach 20, 30 years ago, you had to go work at a gym.
Yeah.
Or open up your own studio.
And then you have a ton of overhead.
A ton of overhead. You don't need that now. And then also like technology is so fucking cheap now. You can start a business from your cell phone. But I think that the thing is like a lot of people think it's the door to open to get. It's the same thing with bodybuilding. Like the access to the tools to do the work are cheaper and easier, but the actual work is still difficult. And I think a lot of people get in and don't realize how difficult it is, or they just don't know what to do, and then they fail.
I feel like a lot of it is the knowledge too. I'm helping a couple guys right now get started on coaching, and that's their thing. Like they thought, oh, it's easy. And then like this one guy, he took mine and Colton's content creation course, and he's tripled his followers in 1 week. And he's asking me questions about how to like book people and stuff. And he doesn't have the systems in place to do it. So we're just trying to like throw it on Calendly and figure it out until we can get him onto a CRM and have an actual booking process that makes life easier instead of having to manually sit there and type them all in. And just stuff like that you don't think about when you're first starting.
No, people don't think about it. And I need to do more of that with this. I honestly, all my business has been organic, and social media, my strategy's just been make videos I like.
Yeah.
I really don't have a strategy.
That's all I was doing. I was doing really well, but when I quit therapy, I was like, I feel like I can do more. So that's why I joined that mentorship and learning how to run ads and all that. But since doing that, now you need a marketing budget for your ads too. So you have one more thing you got to worry about, and you got to think about your ad creatives and.
Marketing is a whole other. I do some ads when.
Have you tried the new Chat GPT for those?
Mm-mm.
It's actually really good. Colton and I have been using it. Like it can give you like a good ad with good copy, and then they AI generate like an actual looking person now. So it's a lot better than it used to be. The new 4.0.
Yeah, I mean, I use 4.0, but I haven't used it for ads. I mostly the way I leverage ChatGPT is just to do research and to help me with, writing articles for my website and content stuff. Like I don't have it create the content for me, but I use it to research the stuff I'm doing for my content.
Yeah, I'm almost thinking, I haven't tried it for YouTube thumbnails, but because that used to be the one thing, like it could do research for you and like copy for you, but images it sucked at. You have people with like 7 fingers and shit. But now that they're getting the images down, I might even try it for some thumbnails and see how it works.
No, I haven't done that. But if you can automate a process and make it high quality, then you should automate it. Otherwise, at the end of the day, but at the core of coaching, we are in a service business, and ultimately your service has to be great. You can put all the tools, and I think that's another high level thing that people miss is if you suck at your job, it doesn't matter how many tools and bells and whistles you have in place and how good your marketing is.
Because all coaching is, you make your money off the long-term value of the clients anyway. So if they stay just to start and then you suck at it and they leave, you have to now pay to get more clients in versus keeping the same people you have.
Well, also reputation. If you fuck people over, if you don't deliver on what you promise, then your reputation takes a hit. And you see, well, I mean, that's what's happening to our good friend Victoria Black.
And my other friend Jordan Oakley, his coaching business is cratered.
Yeah, I mean, because after a while, everybody figures out you're a shithead.
Yep.
And then nobody wants to do business with you anymore.
No.
So you have to be hold yourself to a high standard when it comes to service delivery. And you'll see the best companies. I know it's a controversial thing at the moment, but like I'm a Tesla owner. I have my Tesla, but like it's not that the car's great and everything, but the service is just amazing. Like if like people that are a Tesla owner, like they literally will roll like if I have a problem, I go on the app saying, "Hey, my knob fell off of my doohickey." They roll a truck out to my house and fix it. That's like nice. Does Ford or GM do that? No. When I had to get my car serviced, I took it into the dealership. They called an Uber for me, and
really,
yeah, I didn't have to pay for it. Okay. They called an Uber for me, and then when it's done, they notify. Just things like that. Just a little shit like that.
The only problem you have is when you pop a tire.
Yeah. Well, they did help me.
Did they?
Yeah. They got me the tow truck, but it was just that it was 2 hours away from their nearest service center.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of buttfuck Pennsylvania, and middle of a cow field in Pennsylvania somewhere. The closest piece of civilization was 2 hours away. Yeah. So that was the issue there. But anyway, moral of the story is you have to have a good product if you're selling products, and you have to have really good service because you're not going to have a sustainable business. You may be good at marketing, you may be good at acquiring clients, but if you can't keep those clients and you can't deliver a good product or service, then it's all moot. You're going to fail. So these are all of the components that it takes to be successful in business long term. You have to have one. You have to get over that hump where you get past the point of doing all the work yourself. Then you have to have systems and processes in place. You have to delegate effectively, and then you have service delivery and having a high quality product if you want to sustain everything once you have built the engine. Mm-hmm. Sales is all part of building a business. So these are things that I think a lot of people just don't understand. They just like, I'm going to hang a shingle, I'm going to be a coach, I'm going to open an ice cream shop, and the millions are going to roll in. That's not, even if you're knowledgeable, you can be very knowledgeable, but if your service delivery sucks, mm-hmm. or if you suck at marketing, or if you suck at delegating, you're going to fail.
Yeah, because eventually you'll bottleneck, like a service base, you bottleneck yourself on time.
Yep.
And then a lot of guys, as you said, don't charge very much to start out because they're not confident in the product. So now you've bottlenecked yourself with low-paying clients. Whereas
and you kind of do have to start off low. I mean, that I did do that myself, like with the coaching, just to get people in the door.
Yep.
And then when you have enough people, when you have a reputation established, and then some successes, then you can yank your price up. When you have a product, you don't have a choice. You have to make a profit on the product when it's your time.
What I've found funny is actually since raising my prices, I feel like people like reach out to me more and come in, and I have less friction than when my prices were lower. And it's kind of weird.
Absolutely, that happens in every service business. The worst customers are the cheap ones.
Yep.
They don't value. It's because they don't value time or money. I found that out. I did IT consulting for years, and eventually worked our way up to being the most expensive IT consultant, or one of the most expensive in the area. And when we got to that point, the clients were so much easier to deal with. The clients were very respectful over time. It's the guy that wants you to cut him a discount. It's the guy that wants to pay you nothing. They're the ones that don't value your time or resources, and also it's perceived value too. Did people walk into the Ferrari dealership and want to negotiate price?
Yeah.
No. Do they, want to haggle? They haggle over a Hyundai, not over a Ferrari.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're getting the best.
Yep.
Right? They're the best.
Mm-hmm.
And they charge accordingly. They can charge whatever the fuck they want.
Yep.
When you're the best, it's the same thing. You don't haggle over a price at the Mercedes dealership. No, so it's completely different. So you have two choices when it comes to your strategy. When it comes to pricing, you can either be the cheapest and the most efficient, or you can go the best and charge high dollar. Mm-hmm. Those are really the only two. Like Walmart is, stack them deep, sell them cheap.
Yep.
Amazon, that's what they do. So they just their whole thing was to drive efficiency. Let's be the most efficient so we can eke out a small profit and just sell a shit ton of stuff. Yep. But the issue is when you're selling services like coaching,
it's just you, so you don't have the speed they do.
Yeah, no. So the only thing that you have control over is the quality of your service, and then driving your price up. And people think, well, I'm going to scale my coaching team and have more people on my team. It's still limited by time, even if you have more people on your team.
Yep.
You have to have high quality people on your team. You have to invest in training them. It was the same thing when I was doing IT consulting. It would take us years to get somebody up to speed. A couple of years, and you've invested a lot of money into getting that person up to speed and having them be prepared to deliver a high quality service. So, and like a lot of people just don't consider this. So these are the things that people don't think about. Like I laughed. I saw a guy. I'm not going to name names, but I saw a newcomer to coaching on Instagram put up that, hey, I don't put up with that coach that doesn't respond to you right away. I respond to all DMs, within 5 minutes, 24/7. I'm like, what does that tell you about him?
He doesn't have anybody.
He doesn't have any fucking clients.
Oh.
There's a reason why he can respond to your DMs in 5 minutes, 24/7. It's because he doesn't have anybody. And
I used to try to do that because I had like the notifications on my app, and then we got to a certain point where I was just like, dude, like I can't do anything else in the business if I'm answering those all day. So I had to start blocking off time to go in and look and answer people.
Well, that is another thing when you're in service delivery that I learned the hard way over years of working in service businesses is you better keep the promises you make. Mm-hmm. You better fucking keep the promises you make. You have to set reasonable expectations that you can deliver on and keep those promises that you make. And when you say that you can do that, what's going to happen when you have 20 clients? You can't keep up, and you can't keep your promises. And what happens when people, to your perception with the client when you can't keep your promises? They think you're an asshole. Yeah, you're broken the trust. They think you're an asshole. They're going to fire you and go elsewhere. And then you've painted yourself in a corner. And so you've automatically limited yourself to just being a 10-person coach. You're not going to be able to ever coach more than that. Or, if you're doing widget consulting, you're never going to be able to do more than that. So if you want, now it's okay to make that promise, but you have to charge accordingly for it. So like, if you want it, like if I were going to say like, look, you can have my cell phone number, you can call me whenever I want, I'll respond. I would probably have to charge like $25,000 a year for something
keep
like
only
that.
One or two people on it, so you can actually uphold that too.
Yeah, I would have to have a small handful of people, or 10,000. I don't know what the number is. I'm just throwing an arbitrary number out there. But if I had 20 clients that were all paying me, $20,000 a year, then yeah, I could afford to limit my time with that. But otherwise, I have to have more clients, and I have to have a slower response time and scale efficiently. So you have to consider that when you're building your business. And guys, don't do the same thing with the price, like pricing too low. Mm-hmm. I went into, like, when I started the coaching, and I've done training and stuff for 30 years. It's just, but like when I thought about doing it as a full-time gig, and I'm like, all right, when I hit 10 clients, and the price is going here. When I hit 20, it's going here. When I hit this X number, it's going here. And you have to have that already scaled out and planned when you're starting. So that way, that you can scale and put appropriate resources where you need to. And any business works that way.
And was that your original plan when you started YouTube too, to do the coaching? 'Cause I remember you started out
No,
just with the hyper
no,
clouds and you were just reading off the
no,
PowerPoint, but
no,
over
fuck
time it's
no,
grown.
no, that wasn't the intention. I At that time I was still CEO of the company. We were moving along really. I was making pretty decent money. Um, I was making CEO money. I was content with where I was at. The thought of being a bodybuilding coach didn't even cross my mind. My training partner just got tired of people asking me questions at the gym, and he's like, "You need to put some of this shit up on YouTube." And I started putting the steroid profile videos up and like doing like little Q&As, and it just blew up. And
So you
then
did
people,
that just for your local gym to start with?
yeah.
That's funny.
It was just for that. And it's just kind of a therapy exercise too. It's just like I've been doing this off and on since I was 16, and I just have all this stuff in my brain I wanted to dump out on it. Like, look, I've been bodybuilding. I go way back in the bodybuilding stuff. I've been silent, but Dante Trudel trained me from like 2002 to 2005. I was a mod on a bunch of the old um, message boards. Like, I was a mod on Intense Muscle, although Skip fired me as a mod because I never was that good at it. Um,
Did you ever tell Skip that?
yeah, I told Skip that. Skip's
Okay.
like, I did. Yeah. He's like, yeah. Well, I had a bunch of guys that weren't active that often, and I just got rid of them. And I'm like, yeah, you fired me as a mod. But anyway, yeah, so I go way back. I've been doing this shit for a long fucking time. And I wanted to pay it forward a little bit, and because I had some really good mentors, like Dante was excellent. Dante doesn't coach anybody now, but
Mhm.
there's so many people that can trace back their lineage to Dante. It's hilarious, like the whole Victor Black safer use models. He literally fucking copied from Dante. The shit that he accuses people of copying, like Dante 20 fucking years ago was telling people to, maybe you want to control your blood pressure. Maybe it's kind of stupid to be running high dose this all year round. But, maybe you should be looking out for your kidney health. He was talking about this shit in 2004, 2005, and telling people to take, action to correct these things. Maybe, hey, look, you might have heart and left ventricular hypertrophy if you're doing this thing. He was like warning people about all this safer use stuff, these
Mhm.
concepts, and then literally Victor copied him, and then yeah, it was fucking crazy. And then accuses everybody of copying him. We all learn from each other. But
Yeah.
anyway, I wanted to pay forward some of it because when I was younger, there was just no information, and there was no good source of information. And I just kind of tossed it out there, and then it just kind of took off. And then, like, after a while, I started getting all these people reaching out to me about coaching, and I'm like, yeah, I'll help you out. I worked as a personal trainer for about 4 or 5 years through high school, my last year at high school, and then through college. I worked as a personal trainer and a nutritionist. And then I used to coach some people back in the early 2000s online when nobody was doing it, here and there. Um, I had a handful of clients, not a ton, but, like 10 clients or something. Occasionally, I always had some people I was helping with the gym.
Mhm.
And then I had a bunch of people start reaching out to me, and I'm like, well, fuck, maybe I should consider this as a thing. And it just kind of snowballed and took off from there. And then it got to the point where the last year and a half, 2 years, I was making more from coaching than I was from being a CEO. And then it just so happened that the timing lined up well. They were selling the company, and I'm like, well, you know what? It's time for me to exit. This lines up perfectly, and I just said, fuck it. I'm just going to go do this full time.
Mhm. And do you feel like that helped you be able to enjoy having your kids grow up and everything, being at home? I know you're still in the office working, but
Yeah, I mean, I've worked at home for years. We
okay,
didn't. Yeah, we our guys were scattered all over the
okay.
place when I was in IT. We had a staff of about 40, 50 people working for me.
Hmm.
Largest staff I've ever had as a CEO is about 100. Which, yeah, I mean, once you get to managing, that's another thing, man. Another skill set is managing people.
Yeah, yeah. I only have like three right now, and that's still like seems to be a tall task for me because I'm still coming up with processes and KPIs and stuff like that to have in place for it.
That is a whole other bowl of wax, man. Once you'll hit, like I went through these various phases in business building. Like in the next phase, it's like, all right, you've decided you delegate, and then you hit like an employee threshold, like where you have to really think about structuring and roles and how to manage employees and how they fit in the organization, and taking a top-down approach to that. Like usually around 20 employees, then things start to break again. There's all these breaking points. The largest staff I've ever managed is, like I said, around 100. And that is definitely a whole other ball game, man.
Doesn't even seem appealing to me, honestly.
Well, I mean, you have to have a 30,000 foot view of everything. Yeah. You have to really have people you trust that manage different things, and then it scales up, and then once again, it's just more delegation. You delegate to delegators at that point. Mm-hmm. And then but you have to be present and understand what's going on the front lines at the same time. So you still need to poke your head in on the front lines and understand what's going on. Mm-hmm. Because not the people that you're delegating to don't always tell you the truth. And I think that's where a lot of times CEOs will get themselves boxed in, especially as they get bigger. I would assume like some of these guys that get, billionaires and shit, they just end up surrounding themselves with yes men and ass kissers that aren't telling them the truth about what's going on. And then there's problems in their organizations that they're unaware of. It's like a living entity. So it's definitely that is a whole other skill set in itself. Right? It doesn't really apply to the guys that want to be bodybuilding coaches, but
yeah, I just watched Dane Ramsey. He was on Alex Hormozzi's podcast actually, and he was talking about how he only hires in-house and he makes everybody go to work every day, so they're there, so he can literally just walk around and see everything that's happening every day to keep it moving.
Yeah, that's the way I eventually got to. Like I used to go outside to hire people for management positions, and I realized that almost never fucking works. I want to grow and groom my own managers in my business, and I want to know what I'm working with. I want to establish a degree of trust. Mm-hmm. I want them to understand, have a working relationship with those people and understand how they work, and they understand me. And then I got to the point where I only promote it from within.
Yeah.
I think it's the only way you truly know what you're getting. I mean, it's like getting married, man. I mean, are you going to marry a girl that you met on a blind date and commit to? Like, it's a huge commitment hiring somebody to be on your executive team or a key manager in your business. Like, I don't know how you can determine that from a 60-minute interview.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting too. He was saying that each part of the Ramsey company, like, if he delegates to like a person, they basically run it as like a separate company almost. And their bottom line is what they get paid off of and all that. And he just checks every once in a while, but they just run it for him essentially. He trusts them that much. But they've always been internal people. So
that's what I'm saying. You're delegating to delegators. They're really like, that's exactly the way I treated it when I had a larger staff. Is that this is your business unit. You're running it, this is your own little entrepreneurial unit. And I tried to build in some sort of incentive-based compensation for people, so they had some sort of motivation. But you also have to be careful with that though too, because not everybody's motivated by incentives, especially in the tech world. Okay. They're not sales guys, they're not business builders. They just want to do their technical piece and be good at it. So
that's sometimes where I felt boxed in with therapy. Like after a while, I'm like, no matter how good I am or how many patients I take on or anything, I don't get paid anymore no matter what. Like maybe that 2% raise every year. So I'm like, I didn't have any incentive to do any more at that point.
No, and you're a person that's probably motivated more by financial reward. That's another thing, like with people, you have to understand what they're motivated by.
Yeah.
There are guys that tend to be more motivated by financial outcomes. There are people that just are motivated by just being good at their job and doing their job well. As long as they have some sort of decent level of compensation, that's all they care about. So there's sort of like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs that applies to business. People have to be able to afford to make a decent living and live a good life. And then beyond that, you have to figure out what motivates that person and what makes them feel actualized at the high end of that pyramid. Who would have thought this would have been a deep philosophical talk about business? I thought we were talking about Tren.
Well, this helps me out, and hopefully it'll help some of the people out that watch my business stuff too.
Yeah, and I've thought about making a channel talking about some of this stuff, but I don't know how. I don't know, maybe it's boring as fuck for most people. It's a completely different audience.
I mean, I'm sure you've seen Alex Hormozzi's channel. He tried to do all like the fancy stuff and all that, and he's gotten back in the last year. He's like, he realized that his audience liked just the whiteboard. Drawn on the whiteboard, just going over business stuff. He'd get the best views and the most amount of people. Maybe not as many views, but the right audience. Then people would come to buy more of his stuff if he serve that audience versus trying to reach everybody.
I really like Alex. He's very sharp. He's hardworking guy. I like that he doesn't blow smoke and try to sell people on shortcuts. Like he's constantly saying, yeah, it's fucking hard and you got to work your balls off.
And he'll try all the different stuff with content and try to figure out what works. That's why I watch him, mainly to see like what kind of content he realizes is hitting, because he takes all the data and figures out what kind of stuff is in your niche that you need to be doing.
Yeah, he's exceptionally smart and exceptionally hardworking. He's and I like he shares really good information. It's not bullshit information from what I've seen. I know a lot of people don't like him, and I think it's probably because he rubs you the wrong way when he tells you like, yeah, you're lazy, you need to work harder, you need to work smarter. And he's not trying to sell people shortcuts. I think that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Like you basically just need to grind. Now you can grind at the wrong things. I know people that work hard that are unsuccessful because they're working hard at the wrong things. You have to have a good strategy and with what your approach is. You can be a hard worker and not have success. I've seen it. I've been there personally. It's the same thing in bodybuilding. There's guys that go to the gym and work their balls off at the gym.
And eat like shit.
Well, or maybe it's not that they eat like shit. It's like they're doing the wrong damn diet. Like you're doing a carnivore diet and trying to be Mr. Olympia. It's not going to fucking happen.
Yeah.
Right. It's, it takes discipline probably to eat that way. You can weigh and measure everything, but if you're weighing and measuring the wrong damn things, then you're not going to have success. The same thing in business. If you're doing the wrong things and doing them a lot, you're just doubling down on the shit that doesn't work. You're investing your time and energy into things that don't work. So I think that's another thing that you have to define, whether it's in bodybuilding or business. You have to go out and find the thing that's going to maximize the use of your time. You're investing your time into the right things. The first thing at the bottom of the pyramid is you have to be a hard worker. Mm-hmm. You have to be willing to grind. You have to be willing to push. You have to be willing to do things that other people aren't going to do. But then the next, you need to define what those things are and do the right things. If that makes any sense. No, and I think that's where a lot of people go. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I haven't had Alex's level of success by any means, but I've done okay in business. I've done okay in bodybuilding.
They say only like 1% of businesses ever hit $1 million anyway. So, I mean, you're more successful.
Yeah, and I've been up to over $20 million in business on many. But hell, I think I hit close to $1 million in coaching in last year. Not maybe not quite, but just short of it. And that was really my first. I spent half the year working full time between coaching courses, consultations,
and you have no overhead too. That's the other thing.
Minimal. There is overhead.
Yeah, but compared to like when you're, when you have a big office building and everything else you got to pay for, compared to that.
Yeah, I mean, your profit margin might be 70% on coaching, whereas if you're in a traditional business with employees, if you hit 20, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah. I know the hospital, they were happy to hit 2 to 4% every year when I was working there.
Yeah, but once again, they're scaling. There's that's a huge organization. I mean, they probably have thousands of people working there and hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. If you're doing $500 million in revenue and you're putting 5% to the bottom line, that's $25 million in profit. That's not bad for the 5 people that are running the organization.
Yeah.
But if you're doing 10 million, you probably want to put 20% to the bottom line, or 15%, or 10, if you want to make a decent living at it. So that's another thing, it all scales. It just depends on if you're doing low volume, high revenue type stuff, then you need to put more to the bottom line. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing that people don't understand too. It scales. It's so if you're doing a high ticket item, you definitely need to put more to the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. So, I mean, these are considerations. All right, I got to wrap up, man. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we go?
No, I did want to say that, first of all, thank you, because you're the one who got me into this in the first place.
Yeah, man.
I was one of Paul's clients and told him I used to do YouTube for like gaming and stuff, and he encouraged me just to go ahead and start posting content. So I'm only here because he told me to nut up and do it. So I appreciate that.
Well, here's my lesson to life, man. And this is something I've always tried to live my life by. Life is too fucking short to not do what you like. Mm-hmm. It's not about, look, I like making money. I enjoy making money, but it's not primarily about making money for me. What money buys you, and I think this is what people misunderstand, is choice. Mm-hmm. And freedom.
Choice, and you can buy back time a little bit too if you're able
to. Yeah, time. And time is ultimately the most valuable resource that we have, how we live our life. I think the bottom line is if you want to do a business, make sure you love what you do. That you're not resenting it. I've run businesses where I've resented the business. I was in the real estate and finance business. I fucking hated it, man. Fucking hated it. I hated the assholes that worked in it. I made a shit ton of money, and I stayed in it way too long because I was making a shit ton of money, and I was miserable while I was doing it. So make sure you're doing something that you love, that you're doing it with people that you love being around and that you enjoy being around. And if you do that, I think that's the fundamental core of it. And life's too short to be sitting at a desk, man. I'm sorry. Being a slave to somebody else.
Yeah.
Make the most of it. Follow your dreams. Don't listen to that asshole that says you can't be a pro bodybuilder. Don't listen to your fucking uncle that says you can't start a business, that dude, everybody told me I would fail at everything I've ever tried to do in my life. Very few people have been supportive of anything I've tried to do.
You can't be extraordinary by living ordinary.
Well, most people just have no clue how to do it, and they don't want to see other people have success they haven't had, or they may be just generally looking out for your best interest. They just don't understand. Mm-hmm. Like family, I was told to just get a job, work hard. Come home at 5 and watch TV and get up and do it all over again. And that was, be safe. Being safe, taking the safe route is boring as fuck. Yep. And, you don't live the life that you want to live. If you want to be a rock star, go be a fucking rock star. Don't do it halfway. You're not going to do it halfway. I don't know. That's kind of my take on it. If you're going to do something, go fucking balls deep, man. Go balls deep on it and commit to it.
Yeah, I have the same attitude towards it. So you said everything I wanted to say.
All right, dude. Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. And you guys can go drop Paul a follow. He's got his IG down there if you don't know who he is, although I assume most of you will. But I guess we'll wrap up.
All right, it was great talking to you, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. That definitely helped me, give me some clarity too.